All right, everybody, back from their break. I think we got everybody back. My name is Bob Evans. Born and raised over in Connecticut, so hopefully my Western accent won't throw you. I live over there now, outside of Hartford. And so my presentation is sort of on the fly. We're going to get in, we're going to do lots of hands-on stuff. We're going to have a Q&A period. Shelley and I were up in Syracuse on Friday doing a different presentation. Picture this room, smaller, put drapes around it, put it on a football field, put a realtor convention around the drapes, okay? Put me and Shelley in the room talking to realtors without any mics, without mics, with hundreds of realtors talking. You could not hear us that far away, right? So I said to the group, I said, no fear. I, like Christy, have prior Broadway experience. I really did. I didn't tell Christy, but I told them. I was like, I got Broadway experience. I know how to speak to the back of the room. So everybody here, including people in the back of the room, should be able to hear me. My Broadway experience will come through. You've probably seen me on the marquees. I have a stage name. I go by Hugh Jackman. Right? You've probably seen me. You've probably heard of me. I do something that, Christy can probably attest to this. What I do is I do the makeup for when I'm on stage, so that when I come off stage, I look like this and I can just work with the crowd. You know what I'm saying? I don't get harassed out on the streets of New York, right? Because no one recognizes me as Hugh Jackman, right?
It's convincing.
But it is convincing, right? I mean, I sell it, right? I walk out of the theater, nobody asks me for an autograph, I just go home. Okay, so I like interaction, I like banter, I like fun. So feel free, if we go far afield, I will pull us back and say we gotta hold that and move forward because we can't keep everybody here all day. We're gonna do some hands-on stuff. Let me begin. I'm a mover, I told him. Okay, so here's some simple goals, right? We want you to claim your profile so you look professional on Realtor.com and Google. I think Christy explained that really, really well. I'm going to drive that point home just one last time. I think the next slide or two. If you picked up your collateral coming in, you should have a piece that tells you about how you can get a $25 Amazon gift card, right? So we want who doesn't like money? We're going to hopefully get you to the 1 yard line or into the end zone on getting to this point where you can email today to get yourself registered, because it's only the first 500. The good news is, I just heard from Ron, there's about 2,000 people that probably won't be entering the contest.
Their odds are better.
That's a joke that I like. I don't know if you guys like that. I like that joke. Okay, so we're going to get you into that goal. We're going to get you some money. You're going to go on Amazon. You're going to buy Tom Brady t-shirts and send Roger Goodell a message. All right. And the last thing is we're going to work with you to request a review from a past client. I'm going to take time and really drill down on, we got two mechanisms in our system. We got recommendations, and we got ratings and reviews. And they sound like they might be the same, but they're not. So when you leave here, you're going to be experts on the difference, because it's important. So we're going to spend a little bit of time on that, especially for the new agent. Okay, because we're going to make you happy when you leave. Okay, let's jump in. Somebody else built my deck so it has lots of these little transitional slides. I personally hate them. I apologize for every single one of them. So, yes sir, he's going to keep waving me off till I learn. This is what you don't want to be, right? When you leave today, tomorrow, when you go Google yourself, this is what you don't want to be. This is a realtor with an unclaimed profile. Every realtor in the country has a profile, because NAR working with us provided us with their NERDS number and their information. So they all got them. The question is, do they look like this, or do they look lovely? Right? Hundreds of thousands look lovely. Hundreds of thousands do not. And of course, this agent, who I didn't pick from Rhode Island, I picked somebody out from Nevada, doesn't have a button that says, ask me a question, consumer, and I will engage with you on a home transaction. There's nothing here. It just says claim this profile. So this person is not getting a single lead until they claim. You will not be this person when you leave here, or Christy and I will have failed tremendously. And Christy, unlike me, never fails. Okay. We want you all to be awesome. So now we're going to do sort of a Walenda high wire act over the Grand Canyon. We're going to attempt to get all of you into your control panel live, and it's easy. So we're going to walk you through it. Everyone hopefully is on the internet. Most of you hopefully have a device. We've got Ashley and Sam and Joe in the room. So if you get stuck, just quietly raise your hand, and someone will sneak up behind you and whisper in your ear, "How can I help you?" And they're experts, so they'll be able to get you some immediate help. But our goal would be to get you logged in. Then I'm going to come back to the deck and I'm going to walk through a whole bunch of stuff. We're not going to go through it all piece by piece by piece. That will take too long, and as much as you love me right now, all of that will fade over the course of actually going through field by field. But I'm going to walk you through the profile and talk you through what you need to do. And then at the end, we're going to jump into the rating and review piece and make sure you're comfortable there. But once you claim, once we get you into the control panel, your profile is claimed, which means you're not that guy in Nevada. You're that flashy profile, and all you need now to do is to just upload photos, put in content, etc. So, without further ado, let's jump off. On the Realtor.com homepage, if you navigate to that, just type in www.realtor.com. Hopefully, most of you have been there. Hopefully, most of you know in the upper right-hand corner, there's a button called Login. There's going to be times when I poke fun at myself. They should be self-evident. Or at us as a company. To make it easy for you, we created a login button. We put a really big login button here for consumers, and then right underneath it in the lower left corner, we put in smaller text for agents, and under that we put a second login button. This is the login button on our homepage in the lower left corner where you as an agent go. I'm sure many of you know that, but if you're new, you may not know it. So you go to Realtor.com login, lower left corner for agents, login. How many people in the room aren't there? I'll give you another couple of seconds. So, to access your profile and the tool that we call Profile Manager, which is where you go in to enter all your information on your profile, you log into your control panel by coming to the login button, going to For Agents, and clicking Login. And as you can see on the screen that you went to, it asks you for your state, your MLS, and your ID, and your password. You create a password. If it's first time, you click sign up. If you've been here before, you enter your password. It's important to remember your control panel password. If you don't remember it, you can call our customer care, the 800 number for our customer care, and they can walk you through all this. So even if you forget it, we can get you back in. So everyone in this room will be into their control panel before you leave today, because we've got people here to make sure you can get in. Just a couple screens that I'll pass through quickly. But when you come into control panel, either today or at a future time, you will see that we've implemented a way to simplify accessing the control panel. Some of you in the room right now are stuck. I don't remember my password, or I'm entering a particular number and it's not behaving as I would have expected. So we've put a new system in front of that you will see, where when you log in your control panel, it will ask you, one of the times you've logged in, why don't you give me an email address, give me an email address and your phone number, and you can now log in the future by using your email address. so that it'll simplify it. You don't have to remember your MLS ID and all that sort of stuff. So we have a new system that was just implemented in the last couple of months. And as you come into Control Panel, you'll see this new system. Don't be thrown for a loop. We're trying to simplify how you get into Control Panel to update all your other information, but more importantly, to make sure that you can update your agent profile. All right, I'm going to move through this. You might have to accept terms and conditions. That's pretty standard. You might have to give it a security question and answer. One of them is, who does Bob play on Broadway? Just remember that one. For new agents, it may tell you your identification number from Nerds and ask you to confirm it, or it may say we don't have a number, please enter it. So we'll bang right through it. Ultimately, you get through that process and you get into your Control Panel dashboard. This section up here at the top, we've broken up here on the right. I know the room is deep, so it's a little harder to see, but the third piece of that rail right here, it says step 3, complete your profile, and then right here there's a link that says update now. And so when you come into your dashboard, right at the top on the right hand side, there's a link for you to go in and update your agent profile. We're good so far? Yep. Okay. So we've done that. We've gone into Control Panel. We know right at the top it's going to be dominant. I click on update my profile and I can go in and start entering information into my profile. If your first time coming in, it will walk you through a very simple wizard. A couple of steps in a wizard, and then you won't get it every time you come in. Okay? One of the things it'll ask you for is to put in, how should clients get in touch with you? It's the first piece of information, the most critical. It asks for your mobile phone number, and it asks for your email address. Now your email address isn't going to be provided on the website. We don't just leave it out there. We have a ask a question button, and the email address is where the content of that box will be sent to. So this is the email address right here that you want leads to come to. So if you have a dedicated email address where you redirect all your leads to, that would be this email address. When a customer sends a lead to me, what's the email address I want? That's a critical piece of this. And then obviously your phone number. Where do I want them to reach out to me?
So you should change that, the contact email to your personal email?
So where it says contact email under how should clients get in touch with me,
Yep.
this is the email address that when they fill out a contact box, that's where you want the information to go. Okay? So there's another email later on that's going to be different for how we contact you, but this is the email that consumers would use to reach you, right? We just want to make that differentiation. We don't want a lead to get lost in some other email address that you have and then have you not respond quickly. Okay. This page you're going to look at, it says connect to Facebook. We're going to ignore this today because in the last 2 days we learned that there's a bug connecting your Facebook business page into your profile. So we have a crack team looking into fixing that. But in the profile you can connect a business page or a personal page into your profile. And I'll talk a little bit about that later, but I don't want you to spend any time on it because we're going to go down a path. They're going to go down a path and it's going to bring back a message and say, hey, it's not the experience we expected. The next item we'll touch on is your photo. And again, this was raised by Christy. This is very important. The new Realtor search that she showed brings up a list view and it brings up the map view. And the default setting for that search is to display agents with photos. The consumer can switch that off and say, show me agents without photos. But we generally know if you're an agent in a search directory and you don't have a photo, you probably haven't even completed your profile at all. And consumers really aren't interested in wading through lots of profiles for people who haven't taken the time to even enter any information on themselves. So the default is agents with photos, which translates to agents who have taken the time to fill out a profile, and that's who I want to talk to if I'm a consumer. So, the message again, get your photo in if it's not in by the end of the day so that you're live in the system. We're good. You will click on that box to enter your photo. It'll bring you a little upload box where you can go on your device to choose your file. There's a small little message in here that'll tell you it has to be 300 pixels wide. It gives you a little bit of size. We don't want tiny little photos, right? You want a high-res photo. The system will crop it down and make you look gorgeous, right? There's also background photos that you saw on the slide. I'm going to show you a background photo in a moment, a cool one. And so there's a box here, and when you click on that, it opens up that same upload, and it tells you the dimensions. There's something like 1200 wide by 480 high. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it tells you before you upload what the size needs to be. The minimum size you upload that photo, you're good to go, right? What would a really cool, let's say there was somebody in our community, you had an agent photo with a really great background, right? Someone sexy, you know what I'm saying? Someone with a little bit of sex appeal, right? What would a guy who's taken the time to sort of capture, hi, I'm Ron Phipps. So this is Ron's profile, and this is his background photo, right? This is an awesome background photo, and that's a great photo, and this looks so much better than that agent I showed you in Nevada, right? That had just sort of a blank wall with a name and nothing else. So this is where you want to be, right? This is what you're aiming to be by the end of the day. Find a great photo. It could be any passion. It could be anything you want. It doesn't really have to be related to real estate. It just needs to convey something about you that you feel will connect you with a consumer audience. All right. Thanks, Ron. We're going to tease you all day. Now, the room is deep, so I will explain what's on the screen. It may be a little harder to see in the back. There's, on the left-hand side, this is sort of our profile page, profile manager page. We started to fill in the top with the photos. We're going to walk through the page. I'm going to talk just briefly about some of the items here and walk you through. If there's questions or something doesn't make sense, raise hands. Okay? So, the first thing is it'll ask you for your professional title. It's a drop-down, agent, broker. There's a long list of things in there to choose from. Your specialties. This is a type-in box, and you can type in anything you choose. So some of the examples that they've got on here is like residential, listing agent, buyer agent, foreclosure, vacation homes. It's anything you want to type in about yourself. You can type in multiple statements, multiple specialties. As you type them in and click add, it'll add them underneath here so you can see them all. And then there'll be a little X mark if you type in something wrong or you want to delete it. So you figure out what your specialties are. Please come up with some because they show right on the top of your profile. And they communicate great information to the consumer. This next field here, the zip code. Okay? This is another important one. So I'll pause for a second for dramatic effect. Okay, so the zip code, why it's important. I know you're there. So, in the list view that Christy showed, the search with the view, the photo, etc., the way you are found on that view is based upon the towns, which is defined by zip codes, that you enter into your profile. So you want to put the area that you work in. That zip code box will hold up to 50 zip codes. Okay? Put up to 50. So, I'm from Connecticut, so what's the zip code for where I'm standing? Okay, you guys know what it is. So if I wanted to do this town, I would only need to enter the zip code for this town once. One zip code. It might have 2 or 3 zip codes. But if I enter one zip code, it'll show as Warwick on the profile. So you don't necessarily have to enter every single last zip code for a town. So if you wanted to, you could do 50 towns if you just did the primary zip code for each town. And that's how you'll show on that list view. On the map view, it's not tied to the zip code because it's tied to where the consumer has zoomed to. And when they're zooming, if you have an active property or a sold property, you will show on that display, right? So there's two ways the consumers find you. The list view, which is tied to this zip code. So this zip code's important. You want to fill in, but you don't necessarily want to put in, this is my opinion, yours may differ. I don't know that you want to put in a lot of zip codes that you really don't ever work, because when they go to the map view, they're going to see what you've done in that zip code for the last 2 years. And if you haven't done anything in that zip code for the last 2 years, they may think, well, okay, that's not really the message you want to be sending. Put in zip codes for your market area that you work, communicate that to the consumer. Put in your first year of service, put in your website URL, put in your bio. Bios are important, so write a simple one so it doesn't say, Ron Phipps has not entered his bio yet, because that's the message that's there until Ron writes something. So write that first bio to get rid of that message. Then come back 2 days later and write the really good one that you didn't have time to write when you wrote that first one where you were filling this out, right? Think about it, because that bio, that's your selling piece right there. That's what's going to communicate and connect you to a consumer. You want to spend a few minutes. You may have bios on other websites. Copy and paste and bring it in, right? Just grab that information and bring it in. It could be real simple. You could have it on other social media. You might already have great profiles, but if you don't give this like 2 minutes. Give this a little bit of time when you have the time. But do get something in there so you don't show up as, I haven't entered my profile yet. Christy, any other comments?
No, I was just going to say, go to LinkedIn, copy and paste from there.
Right.
Yeah, copy and paste away for today.
Yep. It's the easiest way to get up and running is to get something in there that you've already got on a different website or social site. Okay. There's a thing down here called listing display options. I'm this close and it's hard for me to see them, even with the glasses, which I don't need. I just wear to. Okay. So the first one here, it says show my price range. The next one says show my listings. And the next one says show my solds. So they're check boxes. You can turn those on and off. They don't mean anything to you. I have to flip. Let's flip over to Ron. Okay, so on Ron's profile, on all profiles, but specifically to his, there's a field here called price range, which may change to activity range, but it is communicating the range of the properties that Ron has worked with. And while this says last 6 months, on October 15th, that's going to change to last 24 months. We have an upcoming release here. So this price range communicates to your customers the range for your transactions over the last 2 years. There's a checkbox if you don't want to show that. So you can deselect so that doesn't show on your profile. That's what that checkbox was about. Below that is a map that shows Ron's inventory. And you saw this in Christie's slides as well. The reds are actives, the blacks are the recently solds. There's a tab up there so the customer and the consumer can pick and look and say, show me Ron's current actives, show me what he's recently sold. Recently sold in our vernacular means the last 6 months. On October 15th, it will mean the last 2 years. We're changing in 2 weeks.
Oh, just to amplify that, that was a big piece. That was an important change for us, particularly in a market like ours that's as seasonal as it is. You don't want to have the last 6 months in March being over the winter. Right. So the 24 months is a real advantage for us. Right. So and that's the kind of stuff you guys can weigh in on, because this is organic. If there's an obvious fix or improvement.
Right. The NAR work group put a lot of thought into what that historical window should be. They reviewed all the way back to 3 years. They settled on, they felt 2 years was the appropriate window of time to display. We agree. We've always thought 6 months was a little bit too short for a variety of reasons. We just couldn't get that changed live for today, so it's coming, as I said, in the next release. Okay, so my point was that there were 2 check boxes on your profile and that you can choose to say, I don't want to show recently sold, or I don't want to show my listings, and then this map essentially goes away. So this showing of the inventory is at your choice. The profile is not intended to force you to do things you do not want to do. All right. And then lastly, there's a save button at the bottom of that page. We're good on that page, right? When you get to that page, you're going to be able to figure it out. There's no showstoppers in there. The next section on the page will identify your brokerage information. There is a button here that says change this. Okay. I don't want to tell you why. We can sometimes have your wrong brokerage information in our database, but sometimes we do. So if that happens, and we're working to get that cleaned up on our side, but in the meantime, if that happens, that change this button is how you would go in and change your profile. If you move from one office to another and you want to get that information updated on your profile, just come right here, change your brokerage information, and reflect your proper brokerage information, your proper broker name, should we have it wrong or it get changed. You'll also see in the profile the next time I bounce back that we show the designations and certifications from NAR, and we show languages. I think you saw that on Christy's slide when she was showing you the search piece. Those show on your profile. You do not need to enter those into the profile. You simply need to make sure they're updated at your local association, because they flow up to NAR and then from NAR to Realtor.com through your existing NAR mechanism. So simply just keep that information updated at your local association, and a couple weeks later, we will have it on the website.
So it took me a little while to get on to, so I did a little of my profile, and I went to see how my profile looks, and it's great, but now I can't get back there. How do I get to the profile manager?
I've got someone walking up behind you. Was there another question?
Yeah, it's on the languages spoken, it says through your local association of realtors / POE member records, what does that mean? On the bottom line of languages spoken.
Point of entry.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's point of entry. I'm not sure. I'll have that looked into. Ignore the POE.
But you can pop.
The languages spoken comes through the local association. So if you just contact your local association and say, this is a language, they put it into their system, and if they don't have a system, they have online access to NAR's NERD system. They go dial in, they put it in there. We can't do it. The bottom line is, unfortunately, Realtor.com cannot put into the NAR ecosystem your languages or certifications. They have to come from the grassroots up, and then fortunately NAR provides them to us, so you don't have to be worried about keeping them in sync. You'll see on all of these pages there's a little video link at the bottom. It's a little short how-to on all of these pages, so if you're ever inside Profile Manager, please take advantage of the little links for the videos. They're little short 1 or 2 minute pieces, but they're very informative. If you've got a question, there's very, very high probability that the video right on the page is going to answer your question. All right, let's keep moving. All right, so as you're putting in your profile information, you might just want to see what it looks like as you're completing it. Underneath your lovely face, oh, remind me to talk about lovely faces. There's a preview button. And so you could just preview that and it'll bring up your profile like a consumer would see it. And then you could say, okay, that doesn't look like I thought. I got to go back. I want to change this. There's a typo here or something like that. So you can always preview. I'm going to digress now to something that I wanted to communicate earlier. Christy showed you a map with pins of all your lovely faces on them. Those little round circles are programmatically clipped from your profile photo. In other words, you don't have to give us those little round photos. We're going to go cut them out of your agent profile photo. With me? All right. Let's go have some fun with Ron again. Now, the way the program does that is that it looks at the picture to figure out where the nose and the eyes and all that is, right? And then it creates a oval around your face. And it works great. Except, right? Except, you're good here, you're good. So what's gonna happen is that it's gonna find the center, and then it's gonna create a circle. Now, had Ron been a little farther over here, when it finds the space and does the circle, it says, oh, the end of the image is here. So the circle needs to start here, and then it creates a circle like this. And so his face shows skewed on the map. Shows him way over to the left, and it shows like lots of water off of his ear, right? So, my message to you simply is my free tip for the day. I learned that. Free tip of the day. When you take an agent photo, when you upload your agent photo, if you can keep your face in the middle and just keep space around it so that your ears aren't touching the edge, right? Just keep a little space around you. The program that goes through and snaps your photo will make you look great on the map view as well. And those little photos that come up on that search, on the right rail, right? You want to look good there, right? You don't want to be off or have half your face in there. So keep yourself in the center of your photo. You'll have a great image on the map as well. Go ahead. Yep.
When you did your preview, your profile, how do you get back into the
Yeah, that's what I was just.
login, to the editing page?
Should be two tabs.
Yeah, there's probably a tab at the top. It opened a new tab, but you're on my iPad, so let me have someone come up and touch you so I can keep moving. Can you help this woman here in the second desk, please?
Quick question.
Yes.
Should he be able to take, my name is hyphenate, my last name is hyphenate, it's not telling me, please enter a valid last name, so will I be able to hyphenate?
It's not accepting it? Okay, we'll get that looked into.
No, I
It
try
doesn't do
with.
that.
Doesn't take a hyphen?
You need to do it, no space or space.
Okay.
It's already, yeah.
All right, your attention please, we'll keep moving forward. So, the next section, we just finished about me, now we're into recommendations. Recommendations are different than ratings and reviews. So we're going to take a minute here, we're going to pause, I'm going to talk a little slower, we're going to focus on this. The new agents in the room are going to listen intently to this part, because this is the most important part for you. All right, so recommendations have been in our profile for months and months and months. Recommendations can come from anyone in your sphere of influence. You can ask anyone for a recommendation. They are not linked to a transaction. So you can get a recommendation from anyone. So friends, families, co-workers, anyone you've worked with, people you've worked with in prior careers, anyone can give you a recommendation.
We have to load those up ourselves.
You have to bring recommendations in. In some cases you load them up yourselves. I'm going to give you a different option here in a second. So, we have been working with 2 recommendation sources in addition to loading them up yourself. We've been working with LinkedIn, where you could have recommendations, and with a company called Real Satisfied, who works with brokerages across the country with their recommendation engine tool. LinkedIn, probably hearing that we were going to go live in Rhode Island, decided a few weeks ago that they're tired of having their recommendations show up on other people's sites. So they changed their API and they turned that off. So now your recommendations on LinkedIn don't get off to other places on the web. That's their call, not ours. So if you see LinkedIn in the profile manager, just know we're working to unwind that. It takes a little bit of time to pull stuff out. This is new news to us. We're talking to Real Satisfied. We're talking to a couple other companies that work in the real estate space that do recommendations with brokers. We can't talk about them because we don't have deals. So the point simply is we're going to be working with other parties to try and simplify bringing recommendations in from other sites, right? We don't want you to have to recreate the wheel every time. So recommendations, you can send an email to a past client by putting in their email address. There's a button here that says send email. There's a link right there that says show me what the email looks like that I'm going to send to my client or to my friend or family member. So you can, sorry about that, so you can see that. And then if you have recommendations that are even print recommendations people have given you in the past that you might have in collateral pieces or whatnot. You can come into add a recommendation and copy and paste in that recommendation and put it in yourself. So there's lots of different ways for you to get recommendations in the system. And for new agents, this is a great way to get started, because one of the things we didn't touch on, just slightly, was inside the search experience, where we have the view, there's a sort by number of recommendations. And on the map, when you zoom in on a neighborhood, there's the option to sort that right rail by agents based upon number of recommendations. So for new agents who may not have a transaction yet, but you have plenty of recommendations from prior experience, consumers will be able to find you on the list because they'll be looking for recommendations, and they may choose to sort based upon the number of recommendations. Okay, we're good on that? All right. There's also a video at the bottom. We have a mechanism in place. So Rhode Island is providing us with sold transaction data from the MLS, right, to fill out the profiles. But we also use that information to try and make the experience better for you. When we see that you have had a closed transaction, you will get emails from us reminding you, a little tickler email that says, hey, congratulations on your transaction. Wouldn't this be a great time to go ask for a recommendation? Or you'll see an email that says, wouldn't this be a great time to go ask for a rating and a review? So we're watching and trying to remind you, because you guys got busy lives, we're trying to remind you, hey, reach back to that client. It's a week after the transaction. Reach back and see if you can get a recommendation or a rating or a review from them before it gets stale, right? Because that's when they're most likely to give you that positive review, is right after you've done a really great job for them. So this is simply stating that you can simply put in an email address and then send out a request for recommendations. Again, this is going to be hard for the back of the room to see. This is our email to you saying congratulations on your recent closing. Wouldn't you like to go get a recommendation? Here's where you can fill in the client information so that you can send out that email. Here's a message that came back that tells you that your person, in this case it's Bill Thompson, left you a recommendation on the site, and then there's a button here that says approve this recommendation. I'm going to hold that word approve. We're going to talk about that in 1 second. I just want to show you this. And it would be great if you guys were closer. So this is a copy. You'll see it in Profile Manager. That's the email that goes out to the client. It's very simple. This one says, I'd like to personally thank you for allowing me to assist you with the purchase of this particular address, and to help me better serve my clients, could you give me a recommendation, et cetera, et cetera. And then this is the email that comes back to you with a confirmation that the recommendation came into the system. So the key word here was approve. Recommendations you request, they come back into the system. In Profile Manager, they sit. And you go in and manually say, I approve, I approve, I approve. Recommendations are good, and because you can approve them on an individual basis, they're generally pretty positive. I've seen pretty consistent evidence that they're positive. But the key thing is that you have control over it on an individual recommendation by recommendation basis, okay? I'll jump ahead to make sure I say it out loud, and do not forget. You do not have that same capability with ratings and reviews to cherry pick on an individual basis. The NAR work group said, you can be in, you can turn it on, you can turn it off, but you can't go in and say, no, that guy gave me a bad review, so I'm bolting him out, I'm only going to keep the good reviews, because that defeats the whole concept of a ratings and reviews. So we'll talk more on this later, but I want you to understand that there's a difference there. Not only do recommendations not transaction-based, but you control what displays. So you just may want to use recommendations and not use ratings and reviews, but I hope you don't make that decision, because the consumers want to see the ratings and reviews. Recommendations are good, but reviews, rankings are also what they're looking for. Go ahead, sir.
So on both, do they have to create an account when they go do the review?
When they come into the review, they create, they may already have it, but a consumer account at Realtor.com, they self-identify themselves. We're getting there. I'm going to walk through the whole thing. Don't ask me any questions. You're going to learn it all. I say don't ask me any questions. And what I meant to say in I meant to say at this moment, and I think I even meant a better tone. You know what I'm saying? I think I even meant that with a lighter sort of.
So you're going to be Speaker of the House?
I'm going to be Speaker of the House, yes. I'm taking John Boehner's place or something like that. I don't know what I thought I was doing there.
We didn't believe it.
I am going to address all of your questions in a moment, sir. Thank you for that. All right. What was that? That was my Hugh Jackman, thinking I was more important than the room. All right. Let me get back on track here. Stare at that screen while I take a sip. We're just gonna touch on this. I encourage you to take advantage of these features if you have these features. I encourage you to get your base profile up and operational before you get hung up on any of these features, right? The key thing is get your photo in, get your bio in, get your zip codes in. All of that stuff is critical. Just get it up. Then you can come back and start getting into some of these great additional features. If you have a blog somewhere on your website, you have a blog out there, you can enter your blog in and your blog information will show inside your profile. You won't have to replicate any of the typing. It'll automatically post. If you use Facebook for posting information, it'll show up when it's working. If you use Twitter, and both your Facebook link so consumers can find you on Facebook and your Twitter link so consumers can follow you on Twitter. If you use those social assets, put them in here, they'll be part of your profile. If you use Foursquare, which is the check-in feature where you can travel around and let people know where you are and where you're checking in and whatnot, you can add in your Foursquare social component. So all of this is great for blogging and social. I encourage, if you use any of this, absolutely come back, because all of this content comes into your profile and you don't touch any of it. But it fills out your profile, it gives them a much better feel, all of your Facebook information. Your Foursquare stuff, if you don't use it, it can really be compelling because it shows consumers where you go. What stores do you go to? Where do you shop? What do you do? Where do you work in these communities? I know it sounds crazy, but young millennial people today, they see where you are and they believe you know that market because that's where you live. That's where you're living. So may not be something you do, but if you do use Foursquare, I'd turn it on. There's also a section for my account, help and support logout. We're going to go through this very, very quickly. This is a key screen. This asks you, what name do you want on your profile? So you may have a name in the NAR records, but that really isn't the name you go by in your business. So this is the first, middle, last name, your nickname, etc. And down at the bottom, it asks you for your account email. And this is your business account email. This is where we will email you when you've had a closed transaction and we want to remind you that it's time to go get a rating and a review, something like that. So this is your business account, not necessarily your email where you take all your lead flow into, right? It could be the same email, but I'm simply saying it could be different as well. So your name on the profile and how we contact you. This is probably the most important part here. Do you want emails to approve new recommendations? Do you want to get emails to do that, or do you want to come into Profile Manager? I suggest you leave the emails on. That way you can just approve them from your inbox. Do you want to be reminded upon a closing to get a recommendation? If those emails bother you, you can turn them off, but I suggest you leave it on. If you want help, come down, click on our support site. All right, so I'm all done with the profile manager. There's a lot in there, I get it. My message is go in and fill out the stuff that really has an impact today so you get your profile up and operational. You'll be able to refine this over the next couple of months and just continue to make it better and better. Let's go check out our fictitious agent, Jane Smith, out in Denver, Colorado. All right. So Jane is one of our many presentation agents, okay? But allows me to show you what you could look like with just. So Jane looks good. Oh, look at that! Isn't that funny? So last night in my hotel room, I said to myself, I wonder what the size of Jane's background image is. You know, I bet you I can delete her background image. As long as I don't hit the save button, I won't lose it. Hey, I was wrong. I was wrong. And I deleted her gorgeous background image for everybody presenting today. Okay, so that's egg on my face. So let's move along. So Jane, great image. We saw it a little while ago. I don't know why it's not here. She's in a team. It shows she's in a team here. There's an ask a question button here. And this is the critical thing, because what you guys want, in addition to this free profile, you want leads. And ask a question opens up that box, which allows the consumer to send you an email and ask you a question. When that email comes to you, it doesn't come with a price tag. That lead right there comes to you free off Realtor.com, right? So, in addition to being on the top of Google, which is costing you nothing, in addition to a free profile looking awesome, which is costing you nothing, these leads come to you for no fee, right? So you guys got to do this. It's a no-brainer. Let's scroll down. So Jane has been given way too many designations, right? She's got them all.
She's got them all.
She's got them all. She actually doesn't sell anymore. She just takes courses. That's all she does. For the last 12 months, she's just coursing and coursing and coursing. She is going to know it all. Okay, she specializes in different areas. These are her areas served. This is her bio. Here's her team. The team is very simple. In the control panel, if you're set up with teams, your profile will automatically show your other team members, so there really isn't anything you need to do here. But I just wanted you to show if you're in the room and you have a team, there is a capability to show everybody else in your team, and you're on their profile, they're on your profile. It's kind of a sharing economy in our profile. Here is the listing activity. There's a button over there so that the consumers can see your team activity or to just see your activity. That only displays if you're part of a team. Here's the timeline, which shows your inventory. And I won't do it, but if I click on any of those photos, it opens up a new tab and it shows you that record on Realtor.com, right? So consumers can immediately go from here right into your detail and learn about your inventory right from your profile. So that's a great feature. But what I wanted to show you down at the bottom here was this stuff for those of you that are in the social space, right? So now we have a profile that's fleshed out with blog entries and Facebook posts. And this is Jane's Foursquare area, and it really shows where in town she's been in the last month, different stores and different places that she's visited. And then below that, as you saw in Christy's presentation, are the recommendations. And now coming in with the recommendations is going to be the ratings and reviews, which Jane, because she's fictitious, of course, does not have yet. So that's a great profile that the consumer sees and learns a ton about you. They connect with you, and then they start asking you questions, and that's where you want to be, right? Okay. I have no idea how I'm doing on time, so if my staff thinks I'm way long, just leave the room. We're here. All right, so the last thing we're going to do is we're going to go in and look at the ratings and reviews. And I'm absolutely off script here. I've worked through this last night, so we're going to walk through. I'm going to show you. I'm not actually going to create and do it, because to show you what I'm showing, I'm going to be Mr. Ron again. I'm going to go into his control panel account and show you as if I was Ron. So, but I'm not going to request reviews from his customers on his behalf, but I will show you what it will look like for you. Okay, so. Let's start as Ron on the agent side, and then I'm going to show you what the consumer side looks like. Do we have a question?
Do you need my password?
I do not, because I'm the king of all things at Realtor.com. I had crack staff find it for me last night at about 11 p.m. But thank you very much. I should have said, of course I need it. Just looked at my piece of paper. Yes, yes. All right, guys, here we go.
I look better.
Okay. Okay, hopefully I'm not going to time out. So here's Ron's profile. You should come live today, and I don't know what time, so maybe tomorrow. But what we've done for the 2 beta test areas, Rhode Island and Austin, is using IP address, gee whiz, techno stuff that none of us understand. It's being turned on for the state of Rhode Island, but not for the rest of the country, and for the Austin area, but not for the rest of the country. So you're going to see something that the rest of the company won't necessarily see, both you as agents and your consumer audience, because the beta markets are limited to your large geography. So you're going to see in your profile a new feature here called ratings and reviews and request a review, right? That's what you're looking for. And if you don't see that, then you need to get the word back to us that you're not seeing it, because you're not going to be able to request a rating or a review until you see that come live. So I'm Ron. I'm in my profile. I'm going to come into ratings and reviews. And we see here that there's no active reviews. Makes sense. You're all going to start off at 0. The house rating system of 1 to 5 stars is grayed out because there's no activity yet. There's a box that allows Ron or you to state whether or not you want to display your ratings and reviews on your profile or not. And so if that's to the right in green, it means it's on. If you move it to the left, it means it's off, right? So you have a choice as to whether or not you want to participate. Now, underneath that is a box that says request a new review. So let's click on that. And it's a 2-step process. Request a review, ask your clients for a review to improve your profile. This first part of the 2-step process is asking for specific property transaction information. And again, I'll just keep repeating myself. The ratings and reviews are tied to transactions. So there has to be a sale that occurred. And we're going to be checking this out on our back-end system. We're going to be matching, because what we don't want are fake consumers coming in with fake addresses, writing fake reviews, and having them go public. That's not going to happen, right? So in this particular case, Ron knows who the real customer is, and he knows the listing. So he would put in his listing number, as I am doing. The transaction date's a little tricky because it's just asking for the month and the year. The first 2 times I did day, month, year. So I'm going to put in 12/2014 because that's the month that this listing sold based upon my information. The address was 14 15th Avenue. It was in Warwick. It, of course, is in Rhode Island with a zip code. I should.
3886.
Yep, you know them. So that's it. That identifies the transaction. Now we move to step 2.
One footnote, you don't need the MLS identifier.
It's not a required field, I guess.
It says
You're
that,
right.
but just
Yep. The required fields have these little red asterisks here, so you'll know what's required, but you're right, you don't need that. Okay,
Is that the right zip code?
It is.
it is the right zip code.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so now it's processed that page and it's brought me to step 2. And again, it's a very simple process, right? On this one, we're talking about the client, okay? So I don't know who the client is, we're gonna make the client me, okay? So, because we're not gonna finish this, this isn't legit, right? So we would put in the client name, Bob Evans. It asks, you represented the buyer or the seller in the transaction. It asks for the client's email address. That's required. The buyer seller is required. Their name is required. It asks for the client phone. That's a non-required field. And then lastly, there's a message where you can put in personalize it and send a message to your client as you ask for this rating and review. And then at the bottom, there's that big red submit request button. Now, my gut is we're missing a link in here that says, show me what the message looks like that I'm sending to my client, right? We're in a beta period here. So I think that link is coming. So what I would probably do here is I would probably put that email address, I would probably put that as me, or you, right? I would use my own email address if I was the agent, and I would the first time I sent this through, I would send it to me so I could see what it looked like, and then I would come back and put the real client's email address in there and fire it off to them, just so I could see what it looks like that they're gonna get, right? Because I'm always more comfortable when I know what they're gonna see before they see it. Question?
They got 2 clients. You get 2 reviews out of that? 2 separate email addresses?
If you did both sides, then you would come in and do it both sides. You would do the buy side once, and then you would do the sell side once, and you would get 2 different reviews. Because you have 2 different clients, yes.
Well, I had 2 buyers, a mom and a son.
Oh, can you do,
Oh, that's a good question.
That's the one that's-
yes,
that's the one that's-
yes, yes, I think you should, yes,
All right.
yeah.
So instead of putting the couple's name like
They might as well do all couples things.
John Doe, but two separate.
They may
We're
each have
we-
separate
we're doing
email.
game it now. Very good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So we're well aware that the creativity on how you guys are going to attempt to game the system is unleashing about 60 seconds ago. Okay. So we're with you on that. All right. Just know that we know. So we're watching. And you're going to see things all of a sudden pop up and say, well, you can't do that anymore, or you have to do this, because it's really important. This is called real ratings, okay? They're real ratings because they need to be real. That's what the consumer wants. And they're tied to real transactions so that it isn't just junk, okay? And that's why the consumers are going to come to these ratings in this profile, because they're based off of accurate MLS data. They're based off of real transactions with the real buyer and the real seller, right? It's really important for this to be successful that a year from now, these things are real and not some of the junk we see on other websites, right? We want these things, we want you to look as good as you can. Now, let me veer off to the left just a little bit. So there's going to be some back-end mechanisms here. We have some automated tools that will be reading the reviews that come from your clients, and they'll be picking up the obvious objectionable words, which so far I've omitted because I'm on video today. But if they say stuff that's inappropriate, we've got a little filter that goes through and reads it, right? So we're going to be doing some programmatic reviewing of the reviews that are being written. We also have a third-party company in this review space that's going to be reading all of the consumer reviews to make sure they're appropriate, right? Because we really want this to be professional content. We can't stop them from giving an honest review, which might say, it was good, or it was okay, right? We can't stop that, but we need to watch out for inappropriate and unprofessional language, right? We don't want that. So there's behind the scenes stuff that's going to be going on here. These are not going to go up without being monitored, without being checked out. And there's, and if you have a dispute issue, you call our call center and you talk to them and say, listen, this person says they did a transaction with me, I don't recognize the name, or whatever. You can call in, maybe there's some sort of a glitch we didn't catch, so there's a way for you to reach out to us and to try and get that stuff cleaned up. All right.
Question.
Yes.
Should Should we really be asking our clients if it's okay to give their email address for this?
You're sending this to them. You're not,
Right, but this is going to be in your system, right?
the email address isn't being given out to consumers. This email address is so that you can email them. It's not
I realize
disclosed.
that, but
Okay.
Isn't it still in your system because we filled it in, or?
I guess that's your discretion as to whether or not you want to ask them and say, listen, I'm going to give your email address to Realtor.com to be able to email you a review. We may actually have access to it through other mechanisms in some cases, like to ask a question and things like that. So, but anyways, you're welcome to ask if you think there's any kind of issue there. Okay, are we cool on this side? Now, I want to show you a different side of it as I wing. I'm right here. Okay. What we just did was you, as an agent, initiating a review to a client. On your profile, right at the top, there's a link that says write a review. Down below, let's see if it's here. I did it right. There's a button called write a review. And consumers can click on that link to write a review. In other words, they don't have to be invited by you to write a review. They can come and write a review. Right now, we have 10 years of historical data, I believe, available for them to come in. The window is if they're a client in the last 10 years, they can come in and write a review. Okay? And so they may be scrolling Google and one day bring you up and find you on Google because they're looking and go, oh, look, I can write a review for Ron. You know, Ron did a great job. I didn't know that. I'm going to go in and write him a review. So consumers can do this on their own. That's the way review sites work. So let's see what it looks like if I was a past client of Ron's. I could come in and say, awesome, let me give him a review. And again, from the consumer side, it's a two-step process. So this is an uninvited consumer providing a review on their own. They would provide the year. I'm just going to stay with the same example, right? So 2014, I think it was 14/15th. I might have that backwards. Do I have it backwards? Avenue?
That was right.
All right. It's not finding it. I'm not worried about it. But I can just... That would be my address. I'm not going to worry about it. I specify if I'm a buyer or a seller, my name, my email address, and my phone number is optional. Now, what this isn't showing, and it's because I did this last night, but the gentleman asked the question earlier and I answered it. If I click write a review and I haven't logged into Realtor.com as a consumer yet, using my consumer login, many consumers have accounts on Realtor.com, it would have asked me to log in and say, who are you? And then if I didn't have a login, I would create one. So there's a step before this where the consumer just simply creates an account at Realtor.com. And they can save searches under that account. They can get tickler information and different types of things. But they can also now write reviews. So they will log in. They'll come to this screen. They'll enter in the transaction information. They'll provide some additional information. They'll attest here that they worked with Ron. And then they will go to step 2. Whoops. Yes.
Does it have to be a closed transaction?
Yes. Right now it does. Right? That may change, and you'll be informed of that, but right now it's a closed transaction. Okay, and so now this is what simply what the consumer sees. The categories as defined by the work group, the NAR work group, and I'll read them out loud for the back of the room. So the first is the overall rating, however the consumer would understand overall rating. What's my overall rating of my experience? My next category is what's my rating of Ron's market expertise? And what's my rating of his responsiveness? Responsiveness is important, as you know. His negotiation skills And lastly, his professionalism and communication. So those were the buckets. The work group had a whole bunch, and they worked, Ron knows this, but they worked them all down, and they thought that this was the most appropriate way. I was at a brokerage meeting last week, big brokers in Seattle, and they reviewed this. They got a little bit of a sneak peek, and one of them raised his hands and he said, you know, that's kind of the way we rate ourselves in our own company. That's kind of the bucket. So I think you guys hit it on the head. He's like, that looks right. So some of the largest brokers in the country looked at this and thought, these categories, they feel right. So Ron's awesome, so let's give him 5 stars. He's here. If he wasn't here, believe me, no. So, and then this is where the consumer can write in their pros about their experience. They can put in a little a nickname, whatever, that will show on the review. And I'm not going to do it, but then they would hit submit. And what they will see when they hit submit, which I'm not going to show you, is a little box that comes up and says, thank you for submitting your review, rating and review, something like that. This is being been received by Realtor.com and will be posted in 72 hours. And that 72-hour window is the window where the behind-the-scenes magic goes on, right? It gives you the opportunity. You'll get an email that a customer, because you didn't solicit this one, so you're going to get an email that a rating and a review has been submitted. You'll get to see it. If you object to it, you call the 800 number and say, I don't know what property he's talking about. I don't know who that consumer is. The language they're using now, we're going to check for the language, we're going to check for all the other stuff, but that 72 window is where we make sure it meets all of our NAR and Realtor.com guidelines. And then after the 72 hours, if there's no issues, then it'll just push live as it came in. If it needs to be cleaned up, it'll be cleaned up in that window. Okay? So I'm not going to move forward, but that happens there, and you'll get an email notification, which is why those emails in your profile are so critical, because those are the emails under which we will be communicating back to you. All right? I think...
Question for you, Bob.
1 second. Because I think a few people are getting ready. So, there's an email address, realtorprofile@realtor.com. You can send anything you want us to know, any feedback, any compliment, any criticism. Realtorprofile@realtor.com. There's an 800 number. These should be on your printouts, and also the call center number is right there at the bottom. You can call the call center, which is the same number as you're seeing here. There's a private Facebook group which has a long sort of cryptic URL. Rather than show you that, we're simply saying if you're a Facebook person and you want to become a part of the private Facebook group, which we'd love you to do, just email realtorprofile@realtor.com and say, hey, I'm so-and-so in Rhode Island, I'd like to get into the private Facebook group, and then our people will send you back a link. So you don't have to worry about how messy that private URL is. And then you'll gain access into the Facebook group, and you'll see your comments and everybody else's comments. You'll become part of the conversation and the flow. All right. With that, I'm going to try and stop talking. We're going to try and answer some questions. If you got to go, thank you very much for coming. If you have any questions, issues, you want help getting in, doing anything, stay in your seat. We've got 4 or 5 people here. We're committed to helping you before you leave this room as best we can. I'm going to start taking questions. Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
So if Realtor.com is going to become the expert in the reviews and the ratings, are those going to be able to be shared with some of the other large websites? Because obviously, some of us have already been doing this on other sites where we have to also be, and you don't want to be sending a review to a client 2 or 3 times for 2 or 3 different sites. So
Right.
How can we manipulate that so it all works together, so you're on all the sites that you need to be on?
Right. So the question was related to ratings and reviews. You don't want to ask your customer for 5 versions of it to put on different sites. So what's coming soon, I don't have the date yet though, it's not October 15th, but what's coming soon is sort of our API version to the ratings and the reviews. In other words, a way for these ratings and reviews to have a simple widget so they can get put on your websites, they can go on your broker's websites, they can go on other websites. So we understand for this to be successful, this information needs to be ubiquitous, okay? So I'll tell you right now, we already have a way for the profiles. We're working with certain associations that have member directories. It's called Agent Passport Platform, but we're already working with associations around the country to get our profile on their websites. So we've already started down this process of getting this information out to other websites other than ours in the industry, and taking that one step farther by saying, I don't want just the whole profile, I just want my ratings and reviews so I can put them into other segments. That's coming as well.
Right.
So we are responding, and we will get that word out when we
Because
get closer.
otherwise, people are gonna post some
Yep.
here, some
Yep,
there.
no, we want to have a
all over
one
the place.
comprehensive place where all your ratings, reviews, all your profiles, all your feedback can be. We agree with that. Sir, all the way in the back.
Nice and loud.
Calls from Google asking me to update my Google profile page, and I know it's gonna be a long-winded conversation. Is that a fee to do that? I never actually spoke to a person, but what is that all about?
So the question was, he has a profile on Google and he gets calls from Google about updating his profile on Google. That was what you were asking.
Yeah, do they
I-
charge a fee to do that? Because I never.
I don't know the answer to that. Do you know, Christy? So you've stopped Christy and I, Shelley? Christy, I, and Shelley? Does anybody in the room know?
Yeah, they're gonna charge you, it's probably
There's charge.
20.
Yes, the answer in the room is yes. Google's going to charge you some money to fill out that
I don't
profile.
know, but probably.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. There may be like a basic that's free and then an upsell or something, but there's probably somebody there, but unfortunately, we don't know that answer. I see a question in the middle, sir.
On a team, everybody has their own picture, and that comes back to the team profile, or what?
The question is on the team. So every agent has a profile. And then when you turn that team feature on, you're simply showing all your other team members on yours. So they're all individual profiles, but you can see consumers can see on your profile if you're part of a team who your other team members are. It isn't like a dedicated team profile. It's just individual profiles that are cross-linked. So every team member should have their own photo on it, and then those photos will show in that team section in the detail of the profile.
To transport that over, you have to use then the team name to transport that over, is that correct?
I don't understand the question. Say it again differently.
To transport that over, so it all gets on the team profile page.
There isn't a team profile page. There's individual agent pages, and there's a switch and control panel that says all of these people are on a team, and it's automatically done.
Okay.
There's no, yeah, I think it's a little simpler than we're talking.
Just one other footnote on that. For reviews, one of the structures that the work group wanted to make sure is that the team leader or the team was noticed of any reviews that come in, just as the agents would be. And also the brokers are getting notice of the reviews. So those brokers that are hands-on brokers will be in the information stream of the reviews. This is a big game changer. We want to make sure the information is in the principal's hands, and it will be.
The principal of the team and the office, both, which is fine, I'm just wondering where it's gonna go.
Yeah, you'll self-identify, but yeah.
Okay.
Okay?
When somebody uses,
Get your money, guys, when you leave. Fill it out today. Go ahead.
when somebody uses the Ask the Question button,
Yes.
and I receive an email, is there a way that I know that that's an Ask the Question email that I'm receiving?
Yes, I believe it's in the subject line. You'll know it's an ask a question. And so it should be clear that it's coming from the profile to you, from your profile. And your email at that time has not been disclosed back to the consumer. It's been hidden from them. And when you reply back to them is when you expose how they can now work with you, is your email address. So right at the beginning, they don't know your email address, and then when you say, hey, John, here's great question, happy to help, et cetera, and you reply back, that's when you establish that one-to-one connection via email, okay? All right, any other questions? Yes?
You had the reviews button to request a review, and it's not here on my page.
Right, so I realized that when I was live doing this. So it's possible that our West Coast team hasn't turned on the review piece for the IP addresses here in Rhode Island, right? So watch later today, watch tomorrow. Your profile should come live. That new feature should be enabled for you, and hopefully it all works. This is the first time we've ever done a IP launch based on a part of the country. But it's working in Austin, we tested here, it should work here, they've just gotta get it activated. So so just give it another day and then go back in and hopefully it'll all be there and it'll be working fine. Anybody else in the room? I don't wanna give anybody, if you've got personal questions, you want people to come sit with you, just raise your hand. We've got people waiting to come chat with you. But if there's any open questions for the group that you want to touch on, yes, this right here. So this is what you're working on. Get a request out for a rating and a review in the next day or so, and then go to that email address and tell them you've done it. We'll be tracking, we'll be watching, but get in that email account so that we can send you $25. Right? Everybody loves an Amazon gift card. Anything else, guys? All right, I'm winding up. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate your time.